Welcome to the Shame-Free Zone. I'm Veronica Monet, and I have a special guest today. Her name is Eva Medilek, and she's going to talk to us about some really personal stuff in her life, in her marriage, and how that actually intersected and interacted with her professional path. Eva, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Veronica. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate that.
I'm really excited that you are here. And I'm just going to read your bio so that our viewers actually know a little bit about you, and then you're going to tell us even more. So Eva Medilek is a certified high-performance coach and a relationship success coach. I just want to clue you in. We are definitely going to be talking about business and relationship, how your professional path might impact your marriage or your long-term committed relationship. Very important stuff. She has coached both men and women in the areas of personal development, leadership, and mastering habits for success. She specializes in helping powerful, successful women have happier, healthier, more intimate connections in their relationships without giving up their power. And she knows firsthand how a driven personality type can leave you feeling lonely, disappointed, frustrated, and resentful. I think maybe a lot of us can identify with that. She assures us that you can achieve higher levels of success without sacrificing your health, well-being, and relationships. I can't wait to hear this. I can't tell you how many times I felt like I was sacrificing one for the other, and trying to balance all that can be a real issue. So, Eva, let's get personal now.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So I am really, when I went to your website, I was so amazed how open you were about a crisis that happened in your marriage. And just for how long have you been married now?
We just celebrated 11 years a week ago.
Yes,
and 18 years together, actually. It took him a while to pop the question.
I hear you. All right, well, congratulations on that. And I understand that there was a crisis. How long ago did this crisis take place?
I'm trying to think now. It's probably about 3 to 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that long ago, but it's long enough ago that we really have gone further along on our journey into creating a amazing connection and relationship and communication process with each other.
Well, let's start at the beginning, shall we? If you can share with our viewers, what was the crisis?
Well, the crisis was that my husband was cheating on me, and I found out about it.
Wow. Okay.
And, just to kind of set the stage. Yeah. You know what? And what's interesting about that, Veronica, is if you had told me I was going to grow a third eye or my husband would cheat on me, I would have bet on the third eye. And at the time I was able to get eyelash extensions, so I would have upped my budget for that. Really, there was nothing. He's the most integrous person I've ever met in my life. And so to say this was a punch in the gut was an understatement.
And yeah, I would, what's going to be on the minds of a lot of women right now is, why did you stay with him?
Well, because he's a good person, and he was in pain and hurting and was self-sabotaging because of it. And, we have this stigma on infidelity that it's unforgivable, but a lot of people self-sabotage by drinking, drugs, withdrawal, really holding back and not speaking or communicating. There's so many ways that we self-sabotage in a relationship, but somehow infidelity gets the worst rap. And, when we did the work to look at how we were showing up in our relationship for each other during that time, I developed such a higher level of compassion for the pain that he was in that caused this self-sabotaging behavior. I had compassion for myself, but I also took responsibility for my part in it. And that's where a lot of people kind of stumble, like,
Oh, yeah.
well, how are you taking responsibility for his actions?
Let's just pause for a minute, take a breath, because I have to say, yeah, as a woman, I can kind of feel like, whoa, 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 aren't we getting off on the wrong path here? What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is, and like you said, we'll start at the very beginning. I was building a business. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was working a full-time job as a dental hygienist, and I knew that I didn't want to work for the rest of our lives because, you know, my husband is German, from Germany, all his family's there, and we had hopes and dreams and plans of being able to spend our summers there so he can be closer to his family. But I knew I couldn't do that and work. So I had to figure out, how can I build a business that I could work from anywhere, have passive income, or whatever that looked like. So I was building a real estate investment company, and I was working, and I was cooking, and I was shopping, and I was doing laundry. All I didn't do was clean my own house, because I never have. You know, that's just one thing I like. I mean, I clean, but you know what, I hire that out. But I'm a little bit of a control freak around the kitchen, around my laundry. And so I was in this energy of doing whatever it takes to succeed. I was studying real estate in the mornings before I went to work, studying real estate and contracts and making offers on places at lunchtime, coming home, exhausted from the commute and from the work, and cooking and cleaning up and doing more. And I felt really alone in my drive, because my drive is different from my husband's. He was a little bit nervous about starting a business. You know, some of us in this generation are like, you know, you work hard, you get your education, you work hard, and then you retire with the pension. Well, we all know that that doesn't work anymore. And I was just like, no, this is what needs to happen for us to have the future we wanted. But what happened, I always say to people, what happened was, I was doing, which left me burnt out, overwhelmed, frustrated, moody, short, not communicative. My back and my neck and my shoulders were in pain. I was feeling alone, feeling like, oh, I got to do everything. And so I had an air of resentment of being the one that had the drive to make this business work. And didn't really hide it. You know, as women, we can give you that look, we can have that attitude, we could look frustrated, we could say things are fine when things really aren't fine. And
well, that's our culture.
Yeah, that's our culture. We are.
Learn to read the body language.
Exactly. And my husband's culture, being German, was to, withdraw, avoid. And so he was running away from me. I was not pleasant to be around. He'd come into my office and I'd be frustrated because I was also doing the books, doing all the accounting for the businesses, and so, on top of everything else. Yeah. And he was a runner, run away. He'd be on a bike ride, go to Germany to visit his family, he had to get out of my energy. I was throwing off this energy. And so that's when I say that I took responsibility for who I was being. My way of being was not loving, intimate, and connected. I was in masculine energy of building. I wasn't taking care of my health, my well-being. I was frustrated, burnt out, and overwhelmed, and it showed.
Okay, so now there's a question here. By the way, I live a spiritual path that is all about taking my 50% in my connections and promptly admitting when I'm wrong. It's just like, that is a really core spiritual principle for me. So
I'm going to interrupt you one second there, because we take 100% each.
Oh, you take 100% each. Okay.
We take 100% each, because I don't want 50% of him, and he doesn't get to have 50% of me. So we were on that 100 in our personal growth and development. Like, I get to own what I did, only me, or how I was being, and he owned who he was and who he was being 100%. And so
that is a question, and that I'm sure is on the minds of any woman who's watching this right now.
Mhm.
did he take responsibility?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Can
yeah.
you say a little bit about that? Because I think it'll
Well,
help us.
here's what we discovered. First I confronted him.
Yeah.
He didn't deny it. He was very confused. And I was hurt. And so there was that. But the one thing that I do have is respect for him as a human being. So, I didn't go crazy, burning clothes, throwing things. I like to say to people, when we had this discussion about his infidelity, our little doggy was sleeping right in between us and never stirred.
Oh my
That's
Lord.
how,
Wow.
yeah. And I have an emotional support animal that, whenever I'm on the phone with my daughter, she's right there. Like, Mommy, are you okay? Is my big sister driving you crazy again?
Yeah.
We were able to have this conversation. And we got curious.
So slow down. I know how you're the one that broached the topic. You're the one that confronted him about the infidelity and the fact that he'd been dishonest about it. He hadn't told you about it.
Exactly.
How did you do that without creating a disturbance that would wake your dog? Please walk us through that if you
I
can.
have no idea. I'm going to be completely honest. It's who I am as a person. I've done a lot of personal development work, and that wasn't going to get me any answers to be in that energy. I found out while he was out walking the dog. So the dog had just had her walk and was a little tired. And I had time to process what I found out through his
During
phone.
during walking the dog? That was enough time to process?
He was walking the dog, and I had made the discovery on his phone, just to make that clear. And so,
no, I get that, but
I didn't process it, but the realization of what was happening and the fear of losing everything had my heart beating and palpitating. And I'm not saying it was a calm, pleasant confrontation, but as we talked more and more, the one thing my husband and I have is a high level of respect for each other as human beings, and we make mistakes. Human beings make mistakes.
I just want to kind of intuit here and check out with you. Do you think that you were using curiosity and compassion?
I know I was, because when I talked to him and I saw how much he was hurting, my heart grew. I can't explain it, but my heart grew because I was asking questions about his early life experiences, which is the foundation of the work that I do, and how his early life experiences created his habits, patterns, beliefs, behaviors in his adult relationships. And I learned a lot. We actually, went on a hike the next day and talked even further about it. I asked a lot of questions, and I reached out to some coaches that I had been working. I just started working with a new coach at that time. And I reached out to some people who were my leaders and mentors in personal development. And, my whole point was I did not want to create more pain, but we did have to make a decision. Are we going to have this breakdown lead to a breakup, or have this breakdown lead to a breakthrough? And intuitively, I saw an amazing breakthrough for us. I just wrote an article for Brains Magazine titled, "His Cheating Saved Our Marriage," because it forced us, to look at who we were being and be responsible for how we show up for each other in the relationship.
Another question. I know it may feel like you're sharing such amazing, wonderful things, and I want to get the focus on that, but I just have to ask, was he willing to give up the affair?
That's an interesting question, because the affair was happening in Europe, which explained all the trips to Europe.
Right.
Not at first. Not at first. He was really confused, and in hindsight, it explained a lot of anxiety that he was experiencing, and a lot of avoidant behavior. It's one of the relationship styles that I diagnose in my program, which is he was an invader type, but he was still curious. And, one of the first things we did, we had been in therapy before and it was a disaster. I think it made the relationship worse because he really wasn't open to being in it. But through the coaches that we had worked with, they were like, okay, get a new therapist and get to therapy like right away, immediately, before you move on to more coaching. Because I went into, after we did couples therapy for maybe about 3 months. And then and that was working on our relationship together. And then we each worked on ourselves separately. I hired a relationship coach. He went into further therapy alone because he realized he still had some things to work out. We chose a little bit different paths to work on ourselves, but that was a non-negotiable for me. I wasn't going to do all of the work with coaching and you not do anything and thinking you're fine after 3 months. So there were some non-negotiables.
Right on. I think it's really important. So here's another thing I'm hearing. You practiced, instead of walking into this with accusations and your pain. I'm sure you brought your pain too, but it sounds like you brought curiosity and compassion. And that curiosity goes a long ways because we can start unpacking what's real for our partner. And the other thing that I'm hearing here is that you asserted a healthy boundary, which was you had a non-negotiable. That he also gets sustained coaching or therapy for his issues.
And lose all contact with her. So that was, we went through the phone, we deleted all contacts, all history of communication. And, the thing was that he was leaving for Germany the following week on a pre-planned trip that I couldn't accompany him on. And that's where the affair was taking place. And so, we set some really specific ground rules about that trip, about staying in touch and communicating and being honest. If you were to see her, run into her, what would happen? And, that was a very, very scary time for me. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to act like I'm an angel and I'm perfect and I just sailed through this. There's a lot of fear as a woman, am I too fat? Am I too old? Am I not pretty enough? She's younger, she's prettier. She speaks his language. My husband's white, I'm black. She speaks German, I don't. She has blonde hair, blue eyes. He has blonde hair, blue eyes. I look like this. So I'm not going to pretend that all of that was not swirling in me, but we had a commitment. We created a commitment to destroy our old relationship and create a new one from scratch. And we knew that it was going to be difficult, but we had to go through it. It was hard as hell.
Okay, so I've heard healing, and certainly as a relationship coach, I've taken clients through lots of healing. Destroy the old relationship and start a new one. Say more about that.
Well, we're real estate investors, and we were doing a lot of rehabs on houses. We took this one down, the house of our relationship, and build a new foundation.
Okay.
That's what I mean. So we use that metaphor and that visual. We didn't want to repair what was broken and keep some of the old stuff. We literally built from scratch in our relationship.
Okay, so what is the first building block? That you both still love each other, or is it that you both still respect each other, or is it
the first building block was not living in fear of the past? Not bringing up you did. I was allowed to be curious when I had questions, and he was committed to answering them honestly. But we did not live into the past of, you did that, you did this, and blah, blah, blah. We stayed in present creation. We were in creation, which meant that, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We were today, this is the reality for today. And we also I didn't become anxious about the future. What if it happens again? And what if this? And create a way of being and reactions based on that fear and anxiety of what if?
So this is really important for a lot of men or women who have had an unfaithful partner. And just to be clear, because this is a shame-free zone, and
yeah.
Any polyamory is great, but when you're lying to your partner, that is really destructive. So how do you rebuild the trust? How do you not worry?
You work with a coach.
Okay. One thing that's for sure going to come out of today's conversation is coaching.
Yeah, no, I think I was working with 2 coaches at the time. You know, it was hard. And when I had my moments of struggle, I reached out to my coach, who was really helped me unpack where the fear was coming from, what expectations I was holding that I wasn't getting, and learning how to love what is and how to accept him for where he's at in his journey. Because listen, I live in California, but I'm originally worked in New York, grew up in New Jersey. We're fast.
Yeah.
Not everybody can keep up with me. And so for me, the growth opportunity was accepting where he's at in his journey. And he has said to me, you know, more than one occasion, I'm not as fast as you. You know, I go at a slower pace. And so, and not making up stories about what it means, you know, when my expectations aren't met. And I'll give you an example. We both delved into the book of 5 love languages, which I'm sure you heard, so that we could be better for each other. My love language is, one of them is touch, and I love hugs. Well, the German culture probably is not as huggy, touchy, feely as I would prefer.
Right.
And, you know, what I found that we were speaking the wrong love languages to each other, which was another part of the problem. But I share this with you because he does not always remember that that's my love language. Now, I can make it mean he doesn't care, he's not listening, why can't he remember? Or that, you know what, it's not natural for him. Why can't I just remind him, like, hey, now's a good, I need a hug right now. And he's like, okay, right there, you know. But the old me would have been like, I shouldn't have to tell you every time. You should know. And I would should all over him about it and make it mean that he doesn't care enough about me to know when I need a hug. Well, what's wrong with me asking for what I need when I need it? And having somebody willing to give it to me at the drop of a hat. You know, it's a whole new way of thinking and being for me in relation to him. And that's just one example of many where I get to love what is. You know what? And sometimes when he remembers on his own, it's just like, yes, I get to celebrate that. Yay, this is just what I need. You did it.
So I'm hearing acceptance here, and also, you know, living in the moment, so that you're not future tripping, or you're not going into the past and ruminating on the past. You're actually living in the moment.
Yes, that was huge. That was huge for me. Huge for me, because I'm a girl and I worry. But what if it happens again? You know, we like safety. And what guarantees do I have that the scariest part for me was not knowing if we would be able to stay in relationship. We were doing the work, but what if he decided, no, I can't do this. Yeah. I'd rather go home to Germany and be with someone who's younger, blonder, prettier than you. Like, and I'm not saying that to
I'm just gonna, okay, I get that blonder, but prettier. Sorry.
I appreciate that, but I'm just being real and honest about the thoughts that come up, and I was also mindful of some of the language I used in the past that, you know, would indicate, you know, a little bit of insecurity. I have, you know, my husband's younger than I am, and so I'll just preface that too. So there's a certain amount of insecurity as a woman that goes along with that. And I'm happy to say I've given up a lot of that, because he's damn lucky to have me.
Right? Exactly. Oh my God.
But, you know, it was a process that we had to go through, and it was uncomfortable. It was messy, but we never gave up. And the scariest part for me was that, well, what if we're doing all this work and it doesn't work, you know, and not to be so future anxious. And I remember I was helping a client once who labeled himself a serial cheater. And I was stuck about how to help him in one thing. And I remember going to my husband and I said, I know we don't live in the past. I know that, but I need you to help me help a client, because I'm not a man.
Right.
And so, may I ask you a question about that time in our lives?
Right.
And he gave me permission. I said, what made you stay? Why did you stay with me? And I didn't know the answer. And he looked at me, he goes, the way you fought for me. No one has ever taken a stand for me the way you've done.
Oh, I'm getting chills.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I went into relationship coaching, because I was coaching really women in midlife at that time, because my husband looked at me and said, you need to help more people the way you helped me, because I was a hot mess and you stood for me.
Oh.
And you helped me through it.
Yeah.
You didn't give up on me. That was powerful to hear.
Really, just so confirming coming from your husband, and also pointing to your profession, which was really kind of a problem in the marriage. So can you help us to understand, what have you learned about being a very successful woman professionally, and also maintaining a viable, soulful, amazing connection at home? I think this is an issue that comes up for lots of women of all ages. I have clients in their 20s that are working with that, and it's particularly a burden for women. So I'd just love to hear your wisdom on that.
Because we are so self-sacrificial super women martyrs. We got to give up that cape. We've got to ask for help when we need it. We've got to take care of our well-being so that we can be on our A game, whether it's in the boardroom or the bedroom. And what I mean by that is, I'm a high performance relationship coach, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so you get to, let me use this example as the best way. You know how cars race around the raceway?
Yes.
And they stop for a pit stop really quick, change the tires not blown, fill up with gas, they're not out of gas, change the oil, whatever it is they do under the cars before the carburetor cracks and the car blows up. It's still moving fast, but they stop and they re-energize that car so it can go further, farther, faster. We don't do that with ourselves. We'll sit at the computer, we'll keep going until we're exhausted, and our loved ones get what's left of us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What if
Guilty.
we learned? We're
I'm
all
guilty as charged.
What if we took as much care as showing up as our best selves in our relationships that we do for our clients, for our customers, our job, our workplace? What if we learned how to re-energize ourselves, how to get rid of the old crabby customer that really put us in a bad mood and lose that energy before we go to the next task, whether it's writing an email, whether it's, being with the next customer, or whether it's just, okay, my day is over, I'm going to go down and be with my husband now. And I say that assuming a lot of people are still working from home, but, or even on the drive home. What if we sat in the car for a few minutes and set an intention for who we get to be for our spouse, our partner, our children, our loved ones, brother, sister, whoever, when we get in there and relieve all of that? We never do that. We're just going. What if we learned how to recharge ourselves so that at the end of the day, we're not exhausted and we're wearing out our husbands? Like, how do you still have so much energy? And know that balance doesn't always look like this.
Yeah, right.
Balance goes like this. And so setting up agreements, like, honey, like tonight, I have a mission to be free by 3 with my day. And so if I schedule anything after 3 o'clock, honey, I'm going to be working past 3 on this day because I needed to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Just to let you know. That's respect. Okay. Can you do dinner tonight? Yeah. And so there's that mutual respect. And I think now we're at a competition of who can do more for the other, which is fun.
Oh, I like that.
Whereas I was resentful because I felt I was doing everything all the time. So I had to really do a lot of deep inner work on myself as to why I was frustrated, why I was disappointed, why I was hard on him. And I remember the time my coach said to me, "You're so hard on yourself, which is why you're hard on everyone else in your life."
Right. Oh yeah, that's a big one. You know, when it comes to sharing, like, you know, when you said like, could you cook dinner tonight? Sharing the running of the household. I've encountered a situation where some women, you were talking about being a control freak. That's kind of a common thing for high achievers. Um, you know, I want to get the job done right, so I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, two tracks here. One, how can women not put themselves in a supervisory role when it comes to household chores with, because you know, I fell into this myself in my previous marriage where I was kind of like giving my husband chores to do. And of course that didn't work very well at all. And certainly with my clients, sometimes I see that where
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like she's supervising how he cleans the toilet, right? And this could start to build.
My big one's the dishwasher.
Okay. So
I'm
what?
still a work in progress.
You're still a work in progress. Yeah, me too. But I'm just wondering, what do you have some advice about how we can get out of the role of like the home is my domain?
Yeah, I've stopped, and I talk to myself. I literally am a little bit of a schizophrenic, and I was like, Eva, you don't want to die on this hill. You know, in the long run, it doesn't matter. It's been a process for me because of the strong controlling nature and wanting things done right. And you know, there used to be a time where I would sneak and rearrange the dishwasher when he wasn't looking, or rewash some things. And now I'm like over that. And I have this fun thing I do with clients when I'm getting them to challenge themselves. Okay, like I will not wash. Like we have a French press, and it's never clean enough for me. He does it. I'm whispering so he doesn't hear me. So I remember making a deal with a client. I was like, you do this, and I promise I'm not going to rewash the French press for a week, a month, 30 days, whatever it turns
Right.
out to be, because it is challenging, but I know that my relationship with him is more important than, you know, a spot on the French press or the dishwasher not being full to capacity, or just little things that irk me. I've learned that I get to let it go because I have an amazing husband. I have an amazing life. And some days are easier than others to let it go. Some days are
Yes.
not, but I'll never be perfect with it, but I'm always striving to be better.
You know what? You and I have so much in common on this one. I've been with my partner now for 10 years. And oftentimes I get really frustrated because I walk into the kitchen and he started the dishwasher, but there's still a couple things on the stove or the countertop that didn't, and there's plenty of room.
Yeah.
And I have also taught myself to just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
To let it go, because the space that I want to be in energetically is appreciating the fact that he did the dishes however he wants to do them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, but my
Not
motivation,
easy.
oh, it's not, and I'm a little OCD. So sometimes
You know, I was wearing gloves to pump gas way before COVID.
oh, there you go. Oh my God. Are you sure we're not sisters?
I was like, you know, everybody that made fun of my OCD-ness and don't touch that, and my wipes, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
who's laughing now?
Let go of that control. Let go of that control. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the interracial aspects of your marriage, and then kind of segue into, because you have, along with your coaching program, you've got an allyship program. So, but before we dive into the allyship program, can you say just a little bit about the challenges that you have or have not faced in an interracial relationship? I've been in interracial relationships. Sometimes I didn't find them to be challenging at all. Other times they were pretty challenging. So I'm just wondering what your personal experience is.
You know, the interracial piece is not challenging as you would think it is. My husband is from a different culture. altogether. And that's, we still have some things that are lost in translation. I mean, English is not his first language. And so, but we use a lot of humor to help us through it. But, you know, in my life in general, I've been the only or one of two Black women in any given situation, starting from grade school. And so my point in sharing that with you is I have been guilty of really supporting white fragility my whole life. And so what's opened up for me now is the ways in which I've been guilty of protecting white fragility, whether it's been with his family or other situations that I've been in. But for me personally, after witnessing George Floyd's murder, I knew that there was a deep grieving that came up in me that I never experienced before on a deeper level. And, you know, and I didn't know how my husband would react to it. And when I tell you that man just lovingly held space for me, I got hugs out of the blue that I had never gotten before, that I had been begging for years. But he did not, and this is where I really appreciate him as a human being on his growth. He never said it's going to be okay, or don't make such a big deal about it, or he just held me and held space for me to grieve. And honestly, I still now even, you know, worry about, like you said, I have the Intimacy of Race Facebook group specifically for non-Black allies of Black lives, because I know there are a lot of white presenting people that have the intention of being supportive and have their hearts in the right place, but we're lost and dazed and confused. Like, how do I do it without them ripping me a new one on social media if I say something wrong or do something wrong? So for me, I couldn't be business as usual. I had to do something to have an impact, to have some influence. And that was the catalyst for the group. And, you know, every once in a while I check in with him, because I'm sure he didn't marry a Black activist for sure. That's not what he signed up for. But I always check in with him. And then when I'm in that place of frustration and overwhelm and exhaustion, being a Black woman trying to support allies in this work, you know, he's still my go-to person about, you know, that I can vent to, and he has such sage advice for me. So as of now, and I'm just going to stay in the present moment of creation, it's not been challenging. I mean, yeah, has my husband been guilty of microaggressions and unconscious biases? Yes, and I can call him out on it. But, you know, I know I always look at the intention. And the intention is not to hurt or harm with a lot of things. But I've said some things probably that had the same effect on him with the German culture. And he would lovingly say to me, you know, that's not appropriate to say, and here's why. So we can do that with each other.
Oh, that is really beautiful, Eva. Really, really beautiful. I love that it's the approach that you're taking seems like it would make it very inviting for people who are not presenting as a person of color, white presenting people, the term that you use. I really like that, because once you dig into people's family backgrounds, sometimes you find out they look white, but haven't really had a totally white experience.
Exactly.
And I would think that the approach that you have of looking for intention and not just assuming that people are ill-willed must be really helpful in creating that allyship. I have a question for you, and you may or may not have an opinion on this, but I'm just curious because there's two terms out right now that are pretty popular. One is allyship and the other was anti-racist. And I'm just wondering how those two concepts sit with you and why you chose allyship.
I chose allyship awareness is because, I put on a live forum called the Allyship Awareness Forum that I have available for people who want to see it, where it was a listen and learn event with 6 leading women of color. And because the white community is literally just becoming aware of the depth of the effect the system has had on the Black communities. And so allyship is a verb to take action, to be an ally, to do the work, to dismantle the system that created the injustice and inequality in Black and Brown communities and marginalized communities. So I chose allyship based on a definition that I had read to be an ally. I look at my job is, if you want to fight for us, I don't want you figuring it out on your own how to fight, because what you think we need and what we actually need are not the same things. And so you're in the space of becoming aware of how you can be a better ally in the places where you can take a stand and be better. Now, anti-racism is just the opposite of racism. You're not for, you're against. It's like you're either pro-racism or anti-racism. I believe is the term that Ibram X. Kendi has used in the book Antiracist. I never heard of it before until the awareness has been raised, because I'm having a lot of awareness too. Your Black and Brown communities are being aware of how deep this racism has affected them. We were educated in the same system. So we learned the same history. And so the reactions that we are having are different from the reactions the white and white presenting communities are having, but we're both in this awakening on 2 different ends of the spectrums. I want to bring us together to have compassion for each other's awakening, and not hate and not judgment and not, defensiveness, but let's seek to understand. I understand that the white community is feeling a lot of shame and guilt and not knowing how to process it properly and maybe reactive and defensive. I mean, look in your own families. When, your kid was embarrassed or shamed or guilty, they lashed out. They had a tantrum. They did something, or they were in denial. So it really is normal human behavior that we get to hold space for growth.
I think the place that you're coming from just puts you in a uniquely qualified position to lead the charge in that way. So I'm really excited that you're doing this work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there have been a lot of emerging awarenesses. I am becoming more aware of members of my family who don't identify as white and what their journey has been like, and not knowing, never even being curious enough to investigate that, just to ask.
We have to get curious and make an attempt. One of the things that I do in high performance coaching is really help you to have influence and be influential, and how to be persuasive, whether you're in negotiations, mediations, or just having a conversation about race where someone is so here and you are here. How do you create a space for people to be open, to look at a different perspective? Because there's a lot of people who want to be right, and there's not a lot of people who want to get it right.
Oh, I love that. That should be a bumper sticker. A lot of people want to be right, but they don't want to get it right.
Yeah, and we need people who just want to get it right. Like, thank you for pointing that out to me. I had no idea how that lands for you being Black. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I had no idea. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for caring enough about me to show me why that lands the way it lands.
Well, I want my viewers to contact you for your high performance coaching. And I also want them to be able to reach out to you to learn more about your program for allyship. So can you share with us a little bit about how they can do that? And also, if you have a free gift associated with your website.
Oh, yeah.
The opportunity for you to share.
Yes, I'd love to. Well, like you said, I have my website, which is my name, evamedilek.com. And so anyone who's interested in working with me, there is a work with me button that sends you to an application. And I want to just really see where you're at and how serious you are about up-leveling your leadership in not only allyship, but in your life, you know, because like I said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And the work of allyship starts at home, at work, and in your community. So it really starts with looking deep within. The free gift I have, which is my favorite of all time, is my guidebook, 6 Powerful Ways of Being that foster effective communication and connection in your relationships. And, you know, it's the book that I created that I actually live by. You know, how to have a conversation with my husband, how to make people who are in a difficult conversation with you feel seen, heard, and respected, because that's where most conflict happens. You know when you feel like you've been patronized or not really heard or respected in a conversation, the defense and the reaction that comes up in you. Well, how do you prepare the soil before you plant any seed in a conversation? So this is your guidebook for that. And so all you have to do is do evamedilek.com/PWOB, Powerful Ways of Being, or you can just go on my website and click on the button and have it downloaded as well.
That's great. That is so great. Eva, you are and also the Allyship is on that same website.
Yes. The Allyship forum that I did is on that website. And the Facebook group is called the Intimacy of Race. And so you can it's the only one. So you can just put that in the search bar, and I'd love to have people join and really look at the resources we have so that you can up-level your awareness and your education around some of the things that the Black community experiences and some history that was just not taught in our schools.
And I don't know if I'm reading the current, cultural zeitgeist, I guess, right now, but it seems there's a huge hunger for that information from people of all racial descriptions wanting to understand that.
Yeah,
So
I hope so, because my fear is that people are looking at their watches like, when is this going to be over? Why do we still have to talk about this? And it can't end until the system that was created to keep us enslaved one way or another, it was a loophole for the 13th Amendment, is changed and is ratified.
I don't think it's going away, Eva. I really don't. And I don't know if you're a fan of John Lewis or not. I was and am. His hashtag good trouble. And I just loved what he said when he was like, he didn't know if he would live long enough to see protests for Black Lives Matter that included so many young people, at least, but I think people of all ages who weren't just Black. So I think your dream of wanting all of us to come together and understand each other without the hatred and without the fear, I think it's here, and it's people like you that is going to help midwife that birth.
Well, thank you. I want to do something to move the conversation, keep it sustainable. I created a sustainable ally leadership program, which is a 6-week intensive specifically for this type of work for anyone who's really serious. And so I'm happy to talk to anyone who is curious about what that looks like. But join the group, the Intimacy of Race. And
I'm going to.
How loving that is.
There's a lot I need to learn. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Eva, you're a bright light. So glad you're in the world. And
Thank you,
really appreciate you gracing the Shame-Free Zone with your presence. Thank you.
Thank you.